hear something that you can lay to rest one way or another. There's a rumor that you were playing around on the set with Will Smith, and that you jokingly punched his upper arm or something and broke your hand or did something to it. Is that true? Or
oh yeah, no, that's definitely true. It wasn't quite the way you describe it. Will, again, directing is incredibly boring, and Will and I had been trading punches. Will's trying to teach me how to box, and you know, Will's a large, powerful man, and I'm a Jew. So you know, we would hit each other. We would take turns hitting each other in the shoulder. And I would hit him, and he would sort of laugh, and he would hit me, and I would go down in pain, cringing. Because the thing about Will is, Will can only play one way, and that's, you know, full out. You know, there's no, like, there's an off switch and an on switch. There's not a rheostat where you can dial him down 40%. And about 3 days into it, I didn't realize this, but my arm, my shoulder was totally black and blue and yellow and red, and puffed up and really disgusting, and I didn't know that. And Will hit me, and I decided this time I'm going to really hit him back hard. And I really thought about it, and I motivated myself, and I turned my wrist the way he was teaching me, and somehow I hit him so hard. Once again, he laughed, and I ended up breaking my hand. My fifth metacarpal in 5 places. In fact, you still can see where the pins were. They had to put pins in there. So it was kind of perfect, because the next day I had to go in for an operation, and we had to take 2 days off. And the 2 days we had to take off were the 2 days that the same time I arrived at Cedar Sinai for my operation, Will was arriving with Jada, who was giving birth to their son, Jaden. So because of my operation, Will got to have like 5 days, a weekend and 3 other days off with his wife and newborn son. So it worked out perfectly. But yeah, that is what happened. And we weren't playing around. He was teaching me how to hit, and he was, but when I broke my hand, I went to the emergency room, and the doctor said, "How did you break your hand? Your hand's broken. How did you break it?" And I said, "Well, I walked into a door." And he said, "You walked into a door." He said, "All right, let's take your blood pressure." And again, I didn't know what was going to happen. He pulled up my sleeve, and he looked, and from here to here, it was nothing but yellow and black and red. And first of all, I just told him I walked into a door. He says, "How did that happen?" Now he's angry, and I look at it and I go, "I have no idea." So I really felt like a battered wife, sort of, you know. But that's, and of course Jada, who's Will's wife, and my wife we call Sweetie. Her name's Susan, but Sweetie and Jada said we weren't allowed to play together anymore. They said, "You know, you boys don't know how to play." And then about 4 months later, we were still shooting, and my cast came off. And again, it's so boring on a movie set. It really is. You know, there's 4 hours of lighting for every 20 seconds of shooting. And so Will got us boxing gloves, and the stuntmen padded me up with pads and a Kevlar vest and gave me headgear. And we had a boxing match, which is stupid because I don't know how to box, and that's like Will Smith, you know? And so in the second round, he knocked me unconscious. But I got up before, I got up before the standing 8 count. I was up at around 6. I was only out for about 3 or 4 seconds. And then Jada and Sweetie heard about it, and Sweetie said, "I have no sympathy for you. I told you not to play with him." So that's just the way Will and I sort of pass the time.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, it's not funny because you broke. Well, but it is in a way. I mean, you. Where did he punch you in the head to get right? That is.
He assumed he said anyone else would have either ducked, blocked the punch, or at least moved their head enough to like let it graze off, but he hit me straight on. But you know, my theory of life is the worse the experience, the better the story. So, you know, I'm full of good experiences. You know, I was in a plane crash and I hate to fly, but suddenly now I have a really good story about surviving a plane crash, you know, stuff like that.
Van Nuys Airport?
Yeah.
And the crew abandoned you?
Yeah. How good a story is that? You can't make that kind of stuff up.
That's exciting. It was exciting. I said, hey, this, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it also sounded kind of, you know, I mean, so when you landed, instead of helping you, the actual...
Yeah, you know, the flight attendants always say, you know, I'm not here to serve you food, I'm here for your safety. Hey kids, they literally, the pilot, co-pilot, and flight attendant ran past me because I pointed out that there was jet fuel spewing everywhere out of our wings, out of the 5 airplanes we destroyed as a method of stopping. And they ran past me, and I looked around, and they weren't there, and I walked to the back cargo area, and they had opened the cargo door, which isn't even an exit, and jumped out, and I saw all these firemen yelling, "Jump!" and behind them were the crew members sort of fleeing, because they wanted to get as far away from the plane before it exploded. But you know, at the time it was like a really bad event, but now it's sort of like a really good story, you know.
I'm sure, yeah, at the time it was probably traumatic, but yeah.
It's made me a better flyer, actually. I've always been a really bad passenger, and now I actually am calmer, which is good.
Okay, because there's a quote that says that you know, that you can't fly very well, and that it's almost...
Every time I successfully get off an airplane, I view it as a failed suicide attempt.
Yeah. You know, what about, you know, you look at your body of work, you talk in terms of you know, a persona of a very sheltered kind of childhood and everything. How much of that is true and how much of it is kind of joking, you know?
It's pretty true. I mean, I was paged at Madison Square Garden by my mother during a rock concert at 2 in the morning with the announcer saying, "Barry Sonnenfeld, call your mother." My mother did say if I went away to sleepaway school, what most people on the planet call college, she would commit suicide. When I was in 4th grade, I wanted to play the trumpet, but she convinced me to take up the French horn because she thought if I was drafted, there are so few French horn players, I'd end up in the Army band instead of, you know, the infantry. And in 4th grade, we're talking about pre-Vietnam, right? We're talking about like, I guess I was like 8, so we're talking about like 1961. She's already worrying, if there's a war, what musical instrument should Barry play to be in the Army band? We're talking serious insanity here. So, I did lead a sheltered life. The one thing I will say about both my mother and father, even though they're sort of, you know, Jews and I'm an only child, they never wanted me to be a dentist or a doctor and never pressured me to have any career. My father was always saying, figure out what you want to do in life that will make you happy. In some way you'll earn a living at it. That's very not Jewish parents of only child. So I'll grant them that, but little else. I refuse to. And also, it's sort of given me sort of just somehow a slightly absurdist viewpoint on life. And I think my movies tend to be slightly absurdist, not as sort of absurdist as, you know, Tim Burton or something, and not as stylized as his stuff, but I always have to do this a little bit in the movie.
Yeah, another point is that you have this irrepressible thing, you know, you seem to say exactly what's on your mind. Has that ever gotten you in a tight spot or trouble?
Yeah, you know, can't help myself, and I just hope Bill Bradley becomes president. You know, the thing is, the United States isn't fun anymore. used to be a fun place to live, and it used to have, you can't do anything now. Between lawsuits, and you can't joke around, you can't have a good time, you can't, just like a really boring place. We're becoming Germany. And so it's no fun there.
Yeah, your own experience as a cinematographer. Sometimes some of the shots, some of the visuals almost take you away out of the story because they're so good, Even for Love and Money, I was watching that the other day, or Love and Money. You have one thing at Gray's Papaya,
Yeah.
That is, there's such economy where you got the street scene reflected in the thing. At what point are there, and here in Wild Wild West, you have, almost a letterbox underneath the train, where Will's underneath there. But at what point do you go, this is actually too visually, it's too good visually, too stunning. I don't want to use it because, or it may distract. Do you do that sometimes because you come up with a visual image that may, Woody Allen once said that I've come up with jokes that are too funny and it will distract from the comedy I'm trying to do. In your case, does the visual imagery sometimes get too good maybe and therefore maybe, run the risk of distracting?
I think Woody Allen should make funnier movies. I don't think so. I know what you're saying, and oftentimes cinematographers will suggest shots to me that I feel are cool shots but don't help tell the story, or that it's a cool shot but that it will take too long to discover the shot, and the pace of the movies I like to direct are faster. To a certain extent, I consider myself a stylist, and I think that some movies need a lot of style, some need less style. I think even Get Shorty, in its own way, had a visual style, and I don't think that my visuals have ever gotten in the way of either telling a story or taking you out of the movie. In my opinion, or taking you out of the movie. I understand your question, and I am aware of it. And I think that, for instance, in comedy scenes, you want comedy to play out in two shots. You want to see action and reaction in the same shot. You want to see Cary Grant wearing a bathrobe and Katharine Hepburn calling him Mr. Bones, and Cary Grant doesn't know that his name is Mr. Bones, and you have action and reaction, and cutting in those areas, in comedy areas, actually is the sort of enemy of comedy. And I'm aware of that, and sometimes I'll play out other scenes in two shots, and then there's sometimes in a movie where you just need to sort of, in my opinion, sort of like say, this movie has a lot of scope, we're out in the West. One of my concerns about Wild West was always that I was always concerned that it was going to feel claustrophobic, and that so much of the movie is either on a train or in mansions or at night, that when I had an opportunity to be outside, and we shot a lot of the exteriors in Santa Fe, although strangely a lot of them were shot in Los Angeles. The whole train and Will going under the train, and that whole train fight was on Victory Boulevard on some abandoned railroad track, where behind us you were seeing, Hondas and trucks and all that driving by, and Washington D.C. in 1869, which you reveal right after the title sequence, was a big lawn in Balboa Park, right opposite Van Nuys Airport. We were watching corporate jets taking off and landing all day long, and that's sort of a combination of dirt and fences that we put up, and a couple of matte paintings where you see the Capitol in the process of being built. But I understand your question, and I don't think, for me, that was a problem in this movie. That it can be, but for me it wasn't. I needed that scope at the end, especially in the last act.